the world changes soon. Can get a doobie on a plane, but there's Uzis in our schools. Every dude who touched a boob or a booty getting me too. What you expect from the kids who went to Hooters after school? We're all triggered and defensive, we're all racist and we're sexist. We all grew up watching South Park. How are we offended? Now being fat is beautiful. Name a thing that you can't do. Jumping jacks, run a mile, live past 42. Man, it used to be cool to just flip a bird to the system, and now it's trendy to be triggered and pretend you're a victim. It's my race, it's my weight, it's because I'm a Christian. I hate the internet and anyone who has an opinion. And everybody angry if you say white. Okay, fine. Pass me the brush and I'll paint my face to the shades right. Let's talk about
Welcome to the Red Pill Sports and Entertainment Show. I am your host, Albert Apache, and as usual, brought to you by Open Source Self-Defense Fitness and Grappling. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get into this show. So we're going to wrap up talking about how do you get better at Jiu-Jitsu faster. We're going to talk a little bit about Ariel and his response to Gina Carano. And we're going to talk a bit about the upcoming Who's Number One matchup, where Gordon Ryan is stepping in for Nicky Ryan and will be facing Roberto Jimenez. I'm really looking forward to that match. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the nonsense that went on at the Cam Newton football camp. And so enjoy. Hope you like this episode. Please, guys, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Whether you agree or you disagree, it really helps me out, lets me know if I'm on the right track. If you guys feel like, hey, man, I don't really like this format, whatever, that's cool too. Any kind of feedback is awesome, guys. I appreciate it no matter what. So let's go ahead and get into it. And maybe you can even leave some ideas for what we can do or what you would like me to talk about, bring up, whatever, in the future. Next week, or next episode, I should say, we're going to talk a little bit about some non-traditional things that we don't always talk about here. But in particular, we're going to talk about some male-female relationship dynamics. So particularly for you young guys. So make sure that you tune in. And if you know a young guy or you are a young guy, you may want to really pay attention. All right, let's get into it. All right, good morning. Let's go ahead and get into this segment of how do you get better at Jiu-Jitsu faster. Okay, guys, so here's the deal. We've talked about having to choose the right school. We've talked about checking your ego at the door. We've talked about, being consistent, showing up to class, drilling what is actually being shown to you, and, to learn the technical aspects of the technique. We've gone through all that. So the last piece that I'm going to talk about in this series of advice that's very specific is I'm going to talk about a theory or a concept of training, an approach to training, which, some of the greats of Jiu-Jitsu subscribe to. And it's called situational or specific training. Now, you may not have this, the ability to implement this completely on your own at the academy you're at, because the coach, of course, has say as to how the format is. But let me explain what it is first, and then I'll tell you how you could possibly implement it on your own. So some of the people who are advocates of this are people like Hodger Gracie, Hickson Gracie, Gordon Ryan, and essentially, this idea is that rather than drilling techniques for, let's say, hours on end, rather than free flow sparring hard all the time, rather than doing flow rolling consistently, one of the ways that they all really advocate that you train is via this specific training. Okay. Now, how this is done is, for instance, you are in a specific position. So whether that position be mount, whether that position be your back being taken, whether that position be side control, whatever the position is. And sometimes they'll even go to a very towards the end of a submission, right? Might be triangle setup, or might be what they call spider web, right? And you probably have seen this in the different jiu-jitsu tournaments that have adopted the you know EBI rule set, and they do it in overtime. So you start in a very specific position, and essentially the roll is over after one of two things have happened. Either after the submission has been completed, or you escape that position, right? The person being attacked escapes that position. And then you keep repping. You go back, you reset, you do it again. You get an escape or you get a submission, you go back, you do it again. You do this over and over and over. This is really similar to, the idea, a lot of the more modern ideas of how you learn chess, right? I forget the gentleman's name, but I know he is a black belt under Marcelo Garcia, and he was the boy that was featured in the movie Bobby Fischer. This is actually how he also advocates learning anything, right? Is to break it down into segmented chunks and then focus on specific situations. And he had a lot of success in jiu-jitsu as well. He had a lot of success in kung fu, obviously a lot of success in the world of chess. So I believe that the reason why this works is that specific training is a way to focus randomized training. And that's really where we learn the most. So it tends to build your confidence in a similar way that linear learning will, because you rep it so many times, you eventually will get better at it. And it reduces the amount of chaos while still keeping the behavior patterns random. So one of the ways you can implement this, let's say your instructor does not do this themselves, and of course you're probably, if you're a beginner, you're not probably going to your coach and be like, hey coach, I got a great idea of how to change training, right? How you can implement this on your own is to simply, during rolls, try to allow the position that you want to work. So if you want to work on mount escapes, of course you don't want to be blatant about it, but you allow your partner to get to mount, and then you try to escape. And as soon as you do, you're okay, you're good. You allow the sweep to happen, and you end up back in mount again, and then you try to escape it again. Then you get back to top, or you get back to a good position, you allow the mount, and then you escape again, right? This is how you can implement it into your training, even if your academy coach does not do specific training or does not implement it themselves. So you can actually literally pick something you want to work on and then kind of work on that thing. If you stay focused this way, it kind of really focuses your development. Now, like I said, you still want to do what your coach is telling you to do, but this is a way that you can practice the things that your coach has been saying without being more efficient, I should say that, and being more efficient about it. Also, hit up open mats. if you go to your school, to your academies, open mat, um, that is a time. Do not waste your time free rolling if you're still trying to get a lot of the basics down. Ask the people who are there, hey, for this round, you feel like we can just do positional. I want to work on this position, and we'll just reset every single time. If I can escape, or if you finish me, we'll just reset again in the same position. Most people at open mat are going to be fine with that. They're not going to be upset, right? It's not like asking somebody, hey, will you do shrimping drills with me during open mat? Okay. It is still a form of sparring. It's just a very specific form of sparring and from a specific position. So that's what I got, guys. I really hope that you've taken some of the suggestions that I've made. Sorry about that. And have really started to implement them in your game, or you start to implement them in your game, so that you can get better at jiu-jitsu faster. It's funner for everybody. Everybody will appreciate it. If you disagree with anything I said, like I said before, go ahead, comment down below. And thanks, guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. All right, let's get into this segment. So, Gina Carano, been in the news, was fired from Lucasfilm, fired from The Mandalorian, due to a post that, many tried to twist and turn it into some type of anti-Semitic or insensitive post. If you saw the post yourself, um, it had nothing to do with being anti-Semitic. It was essentially a post calling into question how we treat each other as neighbors here in the United States over political differences. And anybody who knows Gina, anybody who's been following Gina knows this. However, what we found out is over the last week or so, since she's been fired, is that there is a ton of infighting at Lucasfilm, and that essentially they were looking for a reason, trying to find any reason to let go of Gina. Ariel Hawani here. He is a MMA reporter, if you don't know, and he's had a few interviews with Gina, and he decided to weigh in. Dana White was then asked what his response or reply, what his feelings were on the entire situation. First about Gina, then Ariel. And about Gina, he said, leave Gina alone. And in regards to Ariel Hawani, he called him a douche. Now, here's the thing. Why would Dana say that? Well, you have to go back and listen to the reply by Ariel Hawani. Now, this guy put together a 9-minute response video to the Gina Carano post. 9 minutes. Okay. In those 9 minutes, I listened to this and I listened to it a few times. I'm not going to reference it. I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to even put clips of it in. But what I'm going to do, at least for Ariel, is something that he did not do for Gina, which is I'm going to encourage you to go and watch his reply if there's something that you think that I'm being too harsh about. I personally feel like, Ariel was, you know, that this was a very schmuck move on Ariel's part. It was very selfish, very narcissistic. He found a way of taking an incident where Gina is kind of in the spotlight, and many of the uh, Twitter mob is already dogpiling on her to kick her while she was down, and mostly for his own aggrandizement, right? His own for his own ego boost, and it's just pretty horrible. One of the first things that stood out to me about Ariel's reply is the fact that 3 times he references the fact that over the past year he has not liked things that she's posted. Well, that kind of leads one to wonder, well, what has been going on for the last year? Well, for the last year, of course, we've had the pandemic going on, and we just wrapped up a presidential election. So, um, you know, it makes me wonder, well, Ariel, what didn't you like about her posts? What didn't you like, Ariel? Was it the politics? Was it the mask stuff? But before we can actually question his motives and whether or not that the reason why he's finding offense with anything that she might be saying, he tries to cover his six by essentially saying, you know, but I don't want to get into the politics, and you should know where I stand on things and masks and the vaccine and this and that and blah 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 and you know, uh, when in fact we don't know where he stands, right? Not everybody knows where Ariel Hawani stands. Pretty narcissistic, pretty arrogant of him to think that everybody, being that he is a media figure, he's supposed to be a journalist, that is an MMA specialist, that anybody who would come to him and his prerogative on Gina Carano in this particular instance would know what his worldview is. Okay? No, you're going to get the casual fan that wants to know about Gina, then be like, oh, is this who she is? Is she just this kind of person? Wow, this is current affairs, current news. What's going on? Oh, I know. I'll go to the sports writer that covers that particular sport to tell me about Gina Carano and tell me what kind of person she is, and I'll be able to get a good feel for what's going on. Now, people do that because they have this idea of what a journalist is supposed to be. Now, more and more, we are falling away from what we believe journalism was supposed to be because of things like this. Ariel does not tell us who he is. He doesn't tell us what his views are. He, says how he doesn't like her posts, but he won't explain or give a single example of which other posts he doesn't like. And then he wants to put himself above it all as if, we have no right to know what his worldview is in order to judge how much weight to give to his opinion. I also didn't like the fact that a number of times he diminishes and he attacks, uh, you know, Gina's mental health or emotional well being. He says things to the nature of, you know, things just, some of the things she posted just didn't seem right. They just didn't seem right to me. I'm so sad that she went down this path. Like, what is she, a Sith Lord? I mean, she went down this path, like she went down the path to the dark side. Why would you use that terminology, right? What about her comments are you saying is some kind of dark path? Because, see, what he's trying to do without actually saying the words, right, so that he's not held liable, is he's trying to call into question her mental health. He's trying to call into question her emotional well being. And that is a low down, dirty trick, right? It's just a low down, dirty trick. It's a word trick. And, it's something that you would expect a journalist to know how to do, but you would expect a good journalist not to do. And so Ariel, does what he does. And, people can ask, why did Ariel do this? There's a number of reasons. We're going to get into, I think I found the real reason why. But I think that a big part of that, or a sub reason, is the fact that he is part of ESPN, which is part of Disney. And I think that marching orders came down to circle the wagons. circle the wagons around the Disney, family of products. This cannot, get out of what's going on here in Disney and just how bad and toxic it really is at Lucasfilm. And I think that Ariel was called in to do this. Um, he does some other things like putting words in her mouth about Republican. She's comparing Republicans to Holocaust survivors and this, that, and the other. Um, no, she never did that. She never did that. Um, Now, if Ariel read it that way, I think that says more to Ariel's worldview and how he sees things that he would put that into words. Ariel goes on to say something to the effect of, nobody here in the United States, in our current situation, is facing anything like the Jews of, the Holocaust. Now, this is where, it upsets me that Ariel is taking that stance and he's using that argument because essentially what he's saying is that we're not supposed to learn from history. We're never supposed to point to history and say, hey, look, these are things that we've seen what happens when we go down this road. Let's not go down this road again. He's saying that we cannot do that. We shouldn't point things out. And not only that, but, he says that, but what Gina's point was is that, you know, things happen in steps, right? They didn't go directly from when the Nazis took over in Germany. They didn't go directly from, okay, we won an election, let's start rounding people up, right? We've all heard the saying before. First they came for this, then they came for these people, then they came for those people. And when they finally came for us, there was nobody left to say anything, right? We've all heard that saying. And that's what Gina was kind of referring to. And for Ariel to sit there and pretend like there's no weight behind her words, when in fact, this is what they did to Gina Carano. Because politically, they did not agree with her, they didn't like her voicing her political opinions while using the platform that she had as a fan favorite, that she was not to show that, hey, we're still human beings and we're still good people and we just disagree politically, that, hey, I don't agree with this and I don't agree with that, but I can still be friends with people. They targeted her for cancellation and they ostracized her and they took away her means of, making a living. Now, luckily for Gina, she's already landed on her feet and will be doing some work for Daily Wire. But, essentially, they proved Gina's point even more so than Gina's actual post. So Ariel is being very disingenuous. Now, one has to ask, why do you think that Ariel would be so turncoat, so underhanded, so attacking, and doing things in such a shady way against Gina Carano? And of course, like I said, I think a big part of it is the marching orders from ESPN coming down through Disney to circle the wagons. But I think I found the other reason, and I'm about to play you those clips.
Here I am shooting my shot with the great Gina Carano. I'm not sure if you know this, but I do a show called Ariel Helwani's MMA Show for ESPN, the worldwide leader. I've been doing it now for a year and a half, and prior to that, I did it for 9 years. And yet, you won't come on. And so here I am, formally and cordially inviting you to appear on my show in the very near future.
And there she is. And there she is. And there she is. And there she is. In the flesh. Gina Carano, finally. 10 and a half years. Where have you been? Where have you been? Where have you been? Okay.
The whole reason was because I always wanted to come on and tell you something great. It took a while to get there, but so I'm here now.
Well, you know, for me, it was like I would see you do interviews with other people, and I was like, wait a second, did I offend Gina over the years? Why do I see her doing stuff with other people? Why can't she at least just come on the show? Why can't she at least just come on the show? Why can't she at least just come on the show? We'll talk, we'll reminisce, we'll stuff. And yet I always got the stiff arm. And yet I always got the stiff arm. And yet I always got the stiff arm from the team, and I didn't understand why. I won't belabor this point, but did you know that you were like the only fighter in the history of MMA to never appear on the show in the 11 years? I won't belabor this point, but did you know that you were like the only fighter in the history of MMA to never appear on the show in the 11 years? I won't belabor this point, but did you know that you were like the only fighter in the history of MMA to never appear on the show in the 11 years? I won't belabor this point, but did you know that you were like the only fighter in the history of MMA to never appear on the show in the 11 years? Did that ever like get to your... I've said it a lot, but I was wondering if you actually knew this.
No, actually, to be honest, I want to be really honest. I don't really watch your show. Actually, to be honest, I want to be really honest. I don't really watch your show. I don't really watch your show. I don't really watch your show. Not.
And there you have it, folks. This is the real reason why I think Ariel Helwani went after Gina when he saw some blood in the water. I think that Ariel was a bit bitter over the fact that he felt slighted by Gina. This interview is about a year old. So, you know, the whole things that have happened in the past year. He got his usefulness out of Gina when he finally got his interview with her a year ago. He said he didn't want to belabor the point, but he mentioned multiple times, you know, how in the last 10 years she hadn't come on to his show. I really feel like essentially Ariel Helwani felt slighted. Number one, that Gina never came on his show in all those 10 years. I feel that it seems as though, you know, he felt a bit slighted when Gina said, you know, I don't watch your show. He doesn't seem to understand, as she goes on to explain. He doesn't quite understand that, you know, it's more of a compliment from Gina that she doesn't watch his show because she sees them as friends. And, you know, overall, you know, I feel like, you know, Ariel got his usefulness from Gina, got the value he wanted a year ago, and now it's okay to throw her under the bus. And I think this is the real reason why he went after her. Saw blood in the water, and he felt slighted, and it was time for payback. So, you know, take it for what you will, but that's my opinion, and my opinion of Ariel Helwani has really come down because of the way he went after Gina while she was down. All right, men, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into this segment. So betting lines for who's number one. I believe this is who's number one, 165 over on Flow Grappling. The headline match is Craig Jones versus Ronaldo Jr. If you're not familiar with Ronaldo, I believe he just won IBJJF, the 2020 Worlds, I believe. And they're going to be doing this match at a catch weight, I believe, of 195. The more interesting matchup here for me, the one that really has my interest, is Gordon Ryan stepping in for Nicky Ryan to go against Roberto Jimenez. I'm really got my eye on that one. Roberto lost to Craig Jones, I want to say a couple of months ago via outside heel hook, I believe. And it was pretty early on in the match. The match kind of lived up to one of the narratives we thought might happen, right? One of the narratives that might happen was that, you know, Roberto seemingly has a little bit of a Achilles heel, pun intended, when it comes to the leg lock game. You know, and that's probably due to him being a bit younger and, you know, having spent so much of his early career in the IBJJF scoring system, and, you know, the shying away from leg locks and IBJJF for so long that, it may create certain openings within his game for that. So that particular match is where I am most interested. In the main event, clearly Craig Jones is the favorite. Like I said, catch weight of 195. The co-main event. Look at this, the betting odds on this. I mean, wow, that is ridiculous. At negative 1250 for Gordon Ryan, plus 675 for Roberto Jimenez. That's just absolutely an outrageous line. It is open weight. I think Roberto is going to be giving up somewhere in the neighborhood of about 35 pounds, 40 pounds, something like that. He's going to be giving up quite a bit of weight. Now, I've said that I think that where Roberto has an opportunity is by really trying to push the pace early on in the match. If he can keep his legs out of danger and really push the pace early on in the match, Gordon does seem to be a fill you out type of grappler. He likes to get some time in before he really turns it on. So I think Roberto has an opportunity to, turn up the speed, turn up the pace, and possibly make it an interesting match. It is an open weight division or fight, and it is a 30-minute match, submission only. So it should be fun. Both guys like to hunt the submission, so I'm hoping that we get to see some exciting grappling in that match. If Roberto can get to the back, man, he is second to none finishing off from the back. So, it should be interesting. He should be a little bit quicker. I believe he is a bit younger than Gordon Ryan, so he is a bit lighter. So hopefully he can use his quickness, maybe get to the back of Gordon and make it interesting for us. All right, guys, that's what I got for this segment. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into this topic. As you may have seen, it's been going around. Cam Newton was in a video. It's gone a bit viral where he's being attacked by a kid at his own football camp, kind of trying to diminish Cam and everything that, Cam Newton has done in his career. The biggest bullet that this kid seems to be shooting at Cam is the fact that Cam is going to be a free agent going into this next season. And I think it just illustrates everything that's wrong with the culture today as it pertains to men and the respect of men. There's a shot of the boy where he's yapping at Cam and he's going off, and you can see some of his buddies behind him laughing and smiling and things like that. And first and foremost, let me say that I am not a big Cam Newton fan. He's not a guy that I would race to get a selfie with, or I would race to, get an autograph from. That being said, if Cam Newton was, offering to put together a football camp for my kid to go to, I definitely want my child to go to that football camp, because Cam Newton has had a 10-year-long NFL career, primarily as a starter, and, he's achieved a ton of things in college, as well as in the NFL. He's gone to a Super Bowl, right? I think he has the most touchdowns as a quarterback. I'm going to go through some of the things that Cam has done here in a minute. But all that being said, I respect the man's talent. So, while I'm not a fan of Cam, this kind of level of disrespect from some punk kid who has done absolutely nothing with his life to this point is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that we're even, that this is somehow a dig, that there are people celebrating this because they don't like Cam Newton, and celebrating, that Cam is being dogged or whatever, is, it's a little bass-ackwards, to be completely honest. It would be one thing if, this was Cam Newton having a back and forth with another grown man, right? A grown man that was, felt slighted or disrespected by Cam Newton. maybe Cam, dropping off his car at a dealership, and maybe Cam trying to talk smack to a mechanic or something like that, and the mechanic being like, bro, you're not all that, right? That would be one thing. But this is some young punk kid who is at a football camp. At a football camp. If we're going to be honest, this kid will be lucky to make it onto a college roster. He will be lucky to make it into a college roster. Why? Because that's what the numbers tell us, right? That's what the numbers tell us. And, this is Cam, right? Let's talk about what we're thinking is okay behavior from some young punk kid who has zero accomplishments of note in his life. He is disrespecting a first team all SEC player, an All American, right? I believe Cam was, I don't know if he was the first overall pick, but I know he went in the first round. Let's see, he was a Heisman Trophy winner, right? Davey O'Brien Award winner, AP College Football Player of the Year. He's gone to 3 different Pro Bowls. He's been on the first team All Pro. He was the Offensive Rookie of the Year, the Offensive Player of the Year, and he has a season MVP. That was the season I believe he took and led Carolina to the Super Bowl. Okay? So a Super Bowl appearing quarterback with all these other accolades has had a 10-year career, yet somehow in society we are diminishing this man to the point that it's okay for a boy with absolutely nothing on his resume. We're trying to say that they somehow are on the same level. They are not. They are not on the same level. Nowhere close are these two individuals on the same level. And, it speaks to, first of all, the problems that we have with men, and how we completely diminish, disrespect, and make it okay for everybody to disrespect our fathers, our brothers, our sons, our uncles, because we just do not value men as a Western society. And in this case, I'm not a huge person to bring up race, but it's something that I think has to be said. In this case, I think it's particularly a bad look when it's within a subculture of the African American community, right? And I relate with this because of the fact that I feel that the African American community and the Latino community share a lot of similarities, and pretty much and I shouldn't say that it's the communities as per race, but it is the communities per socioeconomic breakdown. So the ghetto, right, family or socioeconomic structure very much mirrors, or they mirror each other with the barrio socioeconomic class and structure. So very much I see that a lot of those same mentalities that take hold, right, in the ghetto, they also take hold in the barrio. Okay. And the fact that, this is how low socioeconomic culture has taught, right? Somehow, I don't know how it became a badge of honor to come from the barrio or come from the ghetto or whatever. It's a badge of honor, even though you haven't really done anything just because you live there. It's the craziest thing. But, that somehow, that now it's okay to disrespect men. It is something that is becoming very pervasive in our mirrored cultures. And so it's just very, very troublesome. And I think it's everything that's wrong. Further, I also feel like this also illustrates why I do not like to listen to athletes when they want to talk about socioeconomic, political issues. Because as you can clearly see, okay, I don't know the socioeconomic background of this particular boy that is talking to Cam. Okay. What I do know is that Cam volunteers his time to help. And in this camp that he does, he's essentially volunteering his time. I don't think Cam makes any money out of this. He essentially is doing it at cost, and he goes forward that way. So, and he has said specifically he does this to try to help, kids of a lower socioeconomic class in order for them to find a way to use football to get out of those kind of situations and out of that class, right? So I can only assume that if even this kid maybe is not in the from a lower socioeconomic class than some of the other kids around him that are involved and laughing and snickering and whatever else are. Well, this is kind of the problem with listening to athletes when they want to talk about politics, because the reality is that most athletes come from this kind of environment where they have been elevated and they do get put on these pedestals. And while, yes, they come from, a lower economic means, they don't really feel it or understand it in the same way that everybody else does from that neighborhood. They generally have nice sneakers. They generally have nice clothes. Why? Because everybody's pretty much kissing their ass because they see them as, their lottery ticket or their meal ticket, that if they hold on to these coattails, and it's not just the people from the neighborhood, right? It's also, you know, coaches that are, these developmental leagues, these amateur, kids leagues. These coaches, they're trying to parlay these kids into becoming paid coaches, right? Whether that be for a high school or some other such thing. They're trying to parlay it into some kind of pipeline to an agent or a recruiter. They're trying to get in their foot in the door here, there, and everywhere. So this is not, it kind of goes back to what we keep teaching these kids. Through everything, we keep putting these kids on a pedestal, and they really think they're on the same level as some of these other athletes, even though they have absolutely zero accomplishments, right? Thus far, this kid has zero accomplishments. Because if he did have accomplishments, we would be talking about who the kid is and not Cam, right? That's just the reality. And so, we really have to stop and take a look at this. And this should be an illustration as to what is wrong in youth sports. And maybe it's time, for us to start saying, well, you haven't accomplished a goddamn thing. No, you're not being put on a pedestal. No, we're not elevating you. And, you're going to have to struggle and pay your dues just like everybody else. Because this is absolutely, absolutely ridiculous that this young boy is attacking. Let's think about this. If this kid wants to play football, I'm assuming this kid is part of the camp and he wants to play football. If he wants to play football, are you seriously telling me that this little young punk kid, he's clearly smaller than Cam. Cam is looking downward at him. You're telling me that this young punk kid has absolutely nothing to learn from a football player that has had a successful 10-year career? I mean, your bullet at him is, oh, you're coming to the end of your career and you can't get a contract. That's your bullet. That's your bullet. What next? Is the next bullet, well, you only went to the Super Bowl, you didn't win it. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And somehow this kid really thinks that that's somehow some kind of slight. That these are, this is an actual, I gotcha moment. How are you getting, Cam? I don't understand. How is that a gotcha moment? I've had a 10-year career, most of it spent as a starter, except for some time where I was injured. I've played at the highest level, and I've made millions. I've been a league MVP, a regular season MVP. I've gone to the Super Bowl, but somehow me being a free agent towards the end of my career that's a slight. That's an insult. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. But again, it goes to, what do we value? And again, because it has nothing to do with how successful Cam is as a career, it goes back to this ghetto/barrio mentality that you ain't shit based on anything you've done in the past. It's always, what have you done lately? We're going to judge you based on what kind of street cred you have for right now, this second, in this moment, in the most recent past that we can judge you, because we don't want to judge long-term success. We don't want to embrace long-term success. We don't want to embrace the grind. It's how much do you shine right now? What is your bling right now? What is your, what do your rims look like right now, right? And we've taught, our kids that this is okay. And like I said, I feel like, this is a barrio/ghetto mentality to attack a successful man this way, to attack, a man who has clearly been at the highest level, and somehow think that, with zero accomplishment, I'm on the same level as you because of I don't even know why. So anyhow, guys, I just wanted to comment on this, and if you disagree with me, that's cool. Go ahead and leave some comments down below, whatever. We could talk about it. Like, subscribe. Thank you guys for listening once again this week. There's some other stuff we're going to get into next show. I really want to talk about something that popped up because of a younger guy in the academy. And, why you young men need to watch your six, and why you need to not be settling down so early on in life. Going to be some contradictory, but yet common sense, but good advice stuff for you guys, I think. So anyhow, that's what we got, guys. Thanks again for listening. This has been the Red Pill Sports and Entertainment Show. Like, subscribe, and remember, be practical, be purposeful. Get fit with a purpose, guys.
Every dude who touched a boob or a booty getting me too. What you expect from the kids who went to Hooters after school? We're all triggered and defensive. We're all racist and we're sexist. We all grew up watching South Park. How are we offended? Now being fat is beautiful. Name a thing that you can't do. Jumping jacks, run a mile, live past 42. Man, it used to be cool to just flip a bird to the system, and now it's trendy to be triggered and pretend you're a victim. It's my race, it's my weight, it's because I'm a Christian. I hate the internet and anyone who has an opinion. And everybody angry if you say white. Okay, fine. Pass me the brush and I'll paint my face to the shades right. Let's talk about abortion. Sorry, tell me how this works. Bacteria is life on Mars, but a heartbeat isn't life on Earth? Weird. Love so stupid.